not the whole world. Sarah, just so you know, we'll go for each item, we'll vote, and then we'll confirm your vote on them since you're on Zoom.
Okay, sounds good.
Perfect.
Good evening, and thank you for viewing the July 20th meeting of the Arcata City Council. The City Council meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting with both in-person attendance and teleconference access via Zoom. First, I would like to welcome our newly elected council member, Ms. Alex Stillman. This is your fifth? Is this your fifth?
Fifth election, you could say, because I ran after I was elected once. I ran again, you know. But I always have years in between.
Yeah. Well, we're happy to serve with you, Alex.
And I'm happy to be here with you all, too. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and start with a flag salute. So for those that would like to, please join us for the flag salute. Thank you. Next, we have roll call. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Atkins Salazar.
Here.
Vice Mayor Schaefer. Oh, she's here.
Here.
Councilmember Matthews.
Here.
Councilmember Stillman.
Present.
And Councilmember Watson is absent, but we have a quorum.
All right, thank you. If you wish to make a comment during the meeting, either at the 2 open public comment periods or for an individual agenda item, there are 3 ways to do so. If you're here in person, please line up behind the podium when the item you would like to speak on is accepting public comment. And I do ask that everyone who's wanting to speak head over in that direction when it's time so that we can keep things moving along. If you're logged on to Zoom, click raise your hand when it's time for public comment on the item you wish to speak on. And if you are on the phone, press *9 on your phone to raise your hand. And when it is your turn, you will be prompted to dial *6 on your phone. For each item, we will be taking the in-person public comment first and then move to the online comments. We won't be going back and forth, so if you're wanting to comment, please make sure that you're lined up at the podium, and also be sure to raise your electronic hand as soon as public comment is requested for that item. And next, we have early oral communication, and this 15-minute time period is provided for people to address the council on matters that are not on the agenda. So if you want to speak about something that is not agendized, we have this time now, and then also again at the end of the meeting for that. At the conclusion of all oral communications, the council may respond to statements. Any request that requires council action will be set by the council for a future agenda or referred to staff. Speakers addressing the council at this time are limited to 2 minutes. Please make your way to the podium or raise your hand if you are on Zoom, or press *9 if you are calling in by phone and wish to make a comment.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome, Councilmember Stillman. My name is Joanne McGarry, but as some of you know, I'm a climate activist who likes to be called McGreta sometimes because Greta Thunberg is a very inspiring person in my life. So I have 3 things to try and get to you in 2 minutes. The first one, because we had the opportunity to honor and recognize former council member Jim Test, I just wanted to let current council members know I was able to attend a beautiful memorial for another former council member and mayor, Taya Gast, a couple of weekends ago. It was a beautiful, beautiful memorial for a beautiful, beautiful human being. And I just wanted to share that with current council members, that she is an inspiring person to look to as you proceed into the future, because she did some amazing things in her leadership here at the city of Arcata. So that was the first thing. The second thing is, I just picked up as I was writing my trike here, the new North Coast Journal, and it's all about the new organic waste issues that our community and the state of California are going to be dealing with. I continue to be very interested, and I am an official environmental services volunteer for the city, in getting us going on this even before it gets going, because we can be in the vanguard as the city of Arcata in letting people know about things that need to happen for our Earth. The final thing is about our Earth and the overview effect. We've all watched those incredible photographs of the galaxies looking out into space. Let us turn to our planet, and we declared a climate emergency in September of 2019. Please, please, let's rededicate ourselves and redeclare such an emergency declaration for the climate in the city of Arcata. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.
My name is Jasmine Guerra. I am the Executive Director of the Humboldt Area Center for Harm Reduction. You probably have heard that we've moved to Arcata recently, which is why I'm here. I kind of just wanted to give an introduction as a program and give people an understanding of what we'll use our new space for. We're a nonprofit, community-based organization. We serve and advocate for people who use drugs in Humboldt County. We have many programs underneath our organization, one of which is the syringe service program, which you probably have heard about. We have for many years provided mobile-based syringe services in Arcata and other parts of Humboldt County. We're authorized by the California Department of Public Health to do so. We also have linkage to low barrier medication-assisted treatment, which is a lot of words. Case management, overdose prevention, education on safer drug use, etc. We will be using the Arcata space as mainly a drop-in center for our treatment program. There will be no syringe services out of the building. That's something that's written within our lease, and we just do not have desire to do that out of the building. And we will not open the doors for at least a month. We have a lot of work to do. If you know what building it is, it hasn't been occupied for a long time. Lots of spiders. Yeah, and then our contact information is on our website, so if anybody has questions, this is kind of a very short little introduction to us, but you can always email or call us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Hi, so my name is Brandy. I'm the Director of Programs at the Humboldt Area Center for Harm Reduction. I have been there for 8 months, but I've been in Humboldt County for 11 years. And this county has my heart and my soul. And I started working at the center because I believe in science and evidence and facts. And I also believe in radical kindness and respect and love and choice and health. And I believe that it's important to give a voice to those who have been the most ostracized in all communities. And I think it's important to advocate for people who oftentimes are forgotten and left behind. I'm really excited to share the name of the founder of the center, who is also Brandy. And I'm really easy to get a hold of and always excited to answer any questions and provide clarification and information for anyone.
Thank you, Brandy.
Hello, good evening. My name is Jessica. I'm also part of the Humboldt Area Center for Harm Reduction. I'm the current board chair. I'm also a previous executive director. I'm a state certified HIV and Hep C test counselor, so I also volunteer outside of my board duties once a week not currently, I've been very busy, but previously was doing that to provide rapid testing to participants at the center. My day job is also harm reduction, so I work remotely for the National Harm Reduction Coalition. I do a lot of training, just teaching people about Harm Reduction 101. I do a lot of work with allied service providers who are also engaging with the population of people who use drugs. And yeah, as the board chair, I'm also readily available to answer any questions. I'm an Arcata resident, and so I'm excited that we now have a building in Arcata. The center has had a long relationship with Arcata. Previous city council members have been in support. We invited Chief Ahern to our overdose awareness event in 2019, and he spoke and was really moved by some of the people that he talked to that day and that told him about their experiences. And so, yeah, again, just like grateful to continue to be in partnership with the city, and happy to answer any questions or just talk to people about harm reduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
I got some notes so I don't get lost. My name is Bill Taylor. I'm a retired engineer from the Bay Area. Been up here since 2010. I worked 2 years, spent 2 years on the civil grand jury here in 17, 18, 18, 19, I believe. I think we talked to Karen on the year trail. I volunteered at CASA for 8 years and kind of quit when the COVID came and I had some health problems. I currently volunteer about 5 days a week, about half the time for Hatcher and half the time for the shower thing. I kind of split the time between the two. The following comments, none of them have been reviewed by the Hatcher people. Since I'm a volunteer, I can say whatever I want, you know. All they can do is dock my pay, you know. With my experience with CASA, AHA, and Hatcher, I think they all three provide essentially the equal amount of services to the less fortunate in our community. It's different groups of people, but they're all less fortunate, and the breadth of all three of the programs and the work they do is essentially, in my mind, the same magnitude. Hatcher's, when I've been there 4 years, and I was 3 years, I've been 3 years with the shower thing, and it's been 4 years with Hatcher. Hatcher's faced several issues. One of them, we had to change from a fixed service module where people came into us in a single place to a mobile thing, and that's taken some transition. The other was the move to Arcata has been troublesome. And we had a needle litter problem in Eureka. People thought there was a litter problem. There was a litter problem. At the time, I was doing the...
I'm really sorry to cut you off, but it's been 2 minutes. But if you'd like to stay for the meeting, there's another opportunity at the end for 3 minutes.
Okay.
So you got to weigh it out. I don't know. But thank you for your service to the community as well.
Hello, my name is Patricia Kambianica, and I'm up here often. So I wanted to start out, thank them for their service. So it was really, it's an honor to kind of step up here behind you guys. I'm on a different note, but thank you. And I also wanted to welcome Alex to the seat, back to her seat at the City Council. I know the Historic Landmarks Committee will be sorry to see you go, and you'll be missed, but it's really nice to have you here. I know I also wanted to thank you in the past when we were registering our Victorian Historic. You were so supportive and so engaging with us, and so I wanted to thank you for that now too. So now that I got that out of the way, you all are also aware that I am a big proponent of keeping the L Street bicycle pathway as it is, but also to enhance it and create it into a linear park. I think that was kind of the vision of a lot of people before, and I'm just kind of back here to kind of state that again, and you'll probably see me again stating it as well again, but I was So I know the northern section of the trail will have to be relocated to fit the road, the new road on L Street, and it will require eminent domain of some properties. So on page 59, it starts out, the city's goal is to provide a park, high-quality trail, or open space within 200 yards of every residential unit in the plan area. I really believe that this trail goes straight through the middle of the gateway area, and the community considers it to be the heart of that area of town. It's the connective pulse that binds the creamery, the marsh, the schools, the homes, the businesses, and now the new community gardens. So I was really, there's,
Patricia, I'm sorry.
okay.
It's your 2 minutes. I'll give you the same offer as Bill. If you want to speak again, you can.
Okay, you might hear me, I might zoom in for that one, but
No,
thank you so
please
much.
do, please do.
It was more important to welcome Alex, but
you,
you will
Patricia.
hear from me again on L Street.
Thank you.
Also welcome Alex. Good to see you up there. Thanks for everything you've done with Historic Landmark. I will continue to put a pitch in for the L Street Corridor Trail, Rails to Trail as a linear park. It is an existing right-of-way with no need for land acquisition. It's a diamond in the rough that can be improved to a high-quality greenbelt linear park. South of 7th Street is a number of wetlands that could be restored in their natural features. In conjunction with the Lake Daylight and Jolly Giant Creek, it could be a part of a creek combining zone. In the Gateway draft, it is identified as the primary accessible public space. The corridor is the primary artery to Larson Park, the Skate Park, Shea Park, and Stewart Park to the north, and the trail system of the Arcata Marsh and the Wildlife Sanctuary to the south. The L Street path will be the gateway into Arcata when the Great Redwood Trail is complete. Excuse me, that should be great. That's Great Redwood Trail. Sorry, below it. And will someday connect Annie and Mary to Blue Lake. On the inside cover of the Gateway draft, Gateway at a glance, open spaces is described as connecting a series of green spaces, trails, protected greenbelt, and daylighted creeks, and complements the Gateway urban environment. GA6A establishes a linear park with recreational facilities adjacent to daylight and restored Jolly Giant Creek. GA6A is to maintain no net loss of wetlands, but to allow for passive recreation within the southwestern Gateway area and provide bicycle and pedestrian connections to other areas. This policy does call for mitigation as opposed to restoration. Restoration would enhance the greenbelt. The L Street Rail to Trail corridor footprint in the existing public space that punches in numerous boxes in the Gateway draft as a high-quality linear park in the form of a greenbelt. The proposed L&K two-way couplet would reduce the footprint and would also pave over wetlands. Please consider a greenbelt enhancement instead of a road expansion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, City Manager, and staff. My name is Fred Wise. On June 29th, the city's consultant on form-based code, Ben Noble, gave a great presentation. Unfortunately, the audio is muffled. I have transcribed the entire presentation with all the diagrams and the audio, enhanced the audio so it can be listened to. It's on arcata1.com. I consider this presentation to be absolutely a must for anyone who's involved in the Gateway plan at all. Second, I've mentioned that I feel we've understaffed, that staff cannot possibly accomplish what we need to accomplish with the numbers of people they have. I've mentioned that the council might approach the university about funding. They have over $400 million. A quarter percent of that is $1 million. That would help us a lot. I also want to clear up any misconception about my intentions. I want this plan to move forward. I'm in favor of infill. I'm in favor of development. I'm actually in favor of tall buildings if they're done right. Unfortunately, the plan as it stands does not provide much home ownership opportunities. This was discussed at the last Planning Commission meeting and was acknowledged. I'd like to see that changed. I'd like to see affordable housing and home ownership opportunities here. My great concern is that we're going to get to the end of this process. Committees and commissions are going to disagree with staff on a variety of items, and we're going to be stuck. I want to see this progress. Last night, the Transportation Safety Committee met about the L Street pathway. They were looking for a Plan B. This was mentioned in January. It was mentioned by me in June. It was mentioned by them last night. We need to, in writing, a Plan B. The Creamy people would like to see it, an alternative to the K Street. Last, there's a section on the website about the lack of parks in the Gateway area. I think parks are crucial, and children's playgrounds. Last, the public engagement needs to be revised. There's no executive summary. I am willing to put together a group of citizens to take all the information that's there and put it into a summary for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, do we have anyone online that would like to comment?
No online comments right now.
Okay, thank you. Next, that takes us to the consent calendar. So all matters on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the City Council and are enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of any of these items. If discussion is required, that item is removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. At the end of the reading of the consent calendar, council members or members of the public can request that an item be removed for separate discussion. So we have A, approve the minutes of the City Council meeting of June 1st, 2022. B, approve the minutes of the City Council meeting of June 14th, 2022. C, biweekly reports on disbursements. D, declare a continuation of the local emergency related to the coronavirus pandemic. E, award a contract for the 2022 Shea Park Improvement Project to Hooven and Company Incorporated in the amount of $100,080. Authorize the city engineer to increase the contract amount by up to $15,012, 15% for a total of $115,092. And authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. F, award a construction contract for the 2022 Arcata Asphalt Grind Out and Inlay Project to Kernan Construction in the amount of $108,570.20. Authorize the city engineer to increase the contract amount by up to $21,714.04, which is 20%, for a total not to exceed $130,284.24, to allow for any unforeseen contingencies and additional paving work as necessary, and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. G, approve the language of the primary argument in favor of the utility users tax measure on the November 8th, 2022 general municipal election ballot. H, approve the response to the 2021 and 2022 grand jury report, custody corrections, and other county facilities. Authorize the police chief to sign the response and direct staff to forward the response to the presiding judge of the Humboldt County Superior Court. I, approve the response to the 2021-2022 grand jury report, Silver Tsunami Warning, Safeguarding Our Seniors. Authorize the police chief to sign the response and direct staff to forward the response to the presiding judge of the Humboldt County Superior Court. And J, adopt resolution number 223-07, adding a WIA ancestral lands acknowledgement to the Arcata City Council meeting agendas and other minor updates to the agenda outline. I know that we have had a request to pull F to discuss that, and then we've made some changes to G, so we'll pull that as well. Anything else that needs to be pulled?
I'd like to pull J as well. Thank you.
All right, we will do that. Is there anyone from staff or from the public that would like to pull any other items? Yes, Fred.
I'd like to pull I.
Aye, sure. Anyone online?
No other. No.
Okay. So can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar minus items F, G, I, and J?
I would so move.
Okay, motion by Ms. Stillman.
I'll second that.
And a second by Ms. Matthews. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, we need public comment, sorry. Do we have any public comment on those, any of those items? Okay.
The ones we already, that we were going to approve, that no one wanted to pull?
Yep, yeah. All right, so seeing no public comment, let's go ahead and retake that vote. Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And Sarah is, all right, thank you. Okay, so that motion passes, so that takes us to F. So let's go ahead and Can we get a, I know there were some current concerns about making sure that we were complying with the new Complete Streets program, so would you like to update us on that?
Sure. Hello, Council. My name is David Case. I'm your Assistant City Engineer. And so this project is one of our annual projects where we do just a small portion, small areas of grind and inlay throughout the city. Some streets, it's just a few locations here and there. Some it's a little bit larger, and it just varies from street to street depending on the condition. And so this project is no different. It's kind of our standard. And so in relation to the Complete Streets policy, there is an exception in that policy for maintenance type work where we are not necessarily repairing or making improvements to the entire road. And so this would fit in that category because, again, we are doing small sections. For example, there are some sections that are as small as maybe 6 feet wide by maybe 20 or 30 feet long. And there are some larger ones as well. But they are typically kind of checkerboard and scattered throughout. So it's difficult to make any significant improvements for the Complete Streets policy for portions of road like that.
So would it be possible in the future, I guess, when we have a consent item, topics like this that are just routine grinding and whatnot, to maybe at least call out why the Complete Streets policy is not applicable, just to show in good faith that we've taken it under consideration?
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense.
Because I think that would be something that people would appreciate. I know that we worked really hard to get that passed, so thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, and I would say pretty much on any type of road improvements, that could just be a standard part so that we know that we've covered it. Great.
Makes sense.
Well, I would move for adoption of, if there's no comments, on number F. And I understand that this is required to be going out to bid it this way is because we have to have traffic control. And usually street crews could do it themselves, but in this case, it's not less than a dangerous situation, so we have to have that. So I move for adoption of number F. You want me to read the whole thing?
Oh, it's okay.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Do we have any public comment? I think we might have someone online.
Nobody online.
Okay. So there's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, so that takes us to item G. The reason this got pulled is we do, in the packet, we have our argument in favor of this measure, and then Councilmember Stillman had some suggested changes. So if we just want to take a minute to look through these.
I just wanted to use some different wordage and be able to make it more impactful in some ways from my point of view when I read it over. So it's very much the same. It's just some additions or distraction. I took out some wordage.
Okay.
I guess it would be verbiage.
That looks good to me. I move to accept item G on the consent calendar.
You move for it?
Yes.
Okay, I will second that motion for number G.
Okay, do we have any public input on item G?
Seeing none online?
Okay, so all in favor of item G?
Aye.
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 All right, motion passes. Then that takes us to item I, which is regarding the silver tsunami warning. And I'm thinking since we'll see, do we have any discussion on the dais about that one, or should we just go to public input? Okay, so we'll go ahead and do public input on item I.
Thank you. I'm Fred Wise. I think I'm just going to ask what everyone else has been asking. This is safeguarding our seniors, yet in the last week and a half, the Creekside development has been lost, 89 units, senior housing. I know staff has told us that we can make up those 89 units, but if we didn't have to make them up, we'd have 178 units. I'd like to know, since this land was annexed into the city specifically for this project, for the senior housing project, I imagine the university has done all its due diligence and legalities, but is there any legal way that the city can unannex the property, perhaps? I'm being a little silly, but it was annexed specifically for senior housing, and now we don't have that. If the council can look into that or get a staff report on that, I think the public would appreciate it. I think realistically, it's unlikely to come back, but it's warrants looking at. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred. All right.
So I would move for adoption of I.
I'll second.
Great. And does there happen to be any more online comment before we take a vote?
No online comment?
Okay, all in favor of aye? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Okay, so that takes us to J, which I know has been a long time in the working. Turn it over to Councilmember Matthews.
All I have to say is I'd like to thank everybody that had a part before this council and Jishkama and the Wiyot tribe for working together to so that we can make this very important land acknowledgement at our council meetings. So I just want to appreciate all the work that's come before us and look forward to saying this before every council meeting.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yeah, thank you guys for letting me join virtually. And I just really wanted to say thank you to everybody that had worked on this project. I know it goes all the way back to even previous council, but especially thank Councilmember Matthews for your recent work on this. It's just so important, and it's just a step in the right direction of hopefully, a continuation of acknowledging the ancestral land locally and, working and creating a better partnership with the Wiyot tribe. So thank you, Councilmember Matthews, for your hard work.
Are there any more comments from council members before we go to public input? Okay, we'll go ahead and go to public input. I have a technical question that doesn't really fit into the vibe of what we're doing here, so we'll go ahead and do the public input and then go to that. All right, Joanne.
Better late than never, but this is the type of thing that Arcata needs to be in the forefront of, not in the back. So I am so glad this is happening now. And like I say, better late than never, but let's not wait anymore for stuff like this. Thank you.
Do we have any other public input online?
None online.
Okay, so just the question that I had before we make a motion, it's not a very exciting discussion item, but I just, since it's not about the statement, it's about the resolution, we're changing just the order, some wording and the resolution of how we run our meetings. So that's actually what my question's about. Let's see, for item, which will be, it's early oral communications, this is packet page 101. It talks about how due to the Brown Act, we can't discuss the items, which is true. But then when we get to the end of the agenda, when we have the oral and written communications again, it just doesn't have that same wording. And I was just wondering if there was a reason why, or if we should have that same wording just to be consistent.
I'm happy to add that wording. I think just looking at where do we shave words. So, but happy to add that in. We can make it absolutely consistent with just the difference in the time change from what is in that first section for early oral communications. Whichever, really, it's whichever language you like better as a council. We just don't open this up very often. So if there were other suggestions that you have, it would be great to hear.
I mean, I'm fine with the language. I just, that was pretty specific and a good addition. And so I thought it might be confusing if it's not in the other one. So that was the only thing I had.
Okay, so we'll add in that sentence, please know that pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action on items that are not on the listed posted agenda. Okay.
Thank you.
Under number 12. Okay.
So I would move for adoption of J with the corrections as mentioned by the mayor.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, so that takes us to new business. We have adopt resolution numbers 223-03 and 223-04, authorizing an amendment to the standard agreements for the 2020 Community Development Block Grant Program Coronavirus Response Act funding, to moving $50,000 from the Arcata House Partnership Homeless Services Program to the COVID Safe Outdoor Event Program. And could we have a staff report, please?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Jennifer Dart, the Deputy Director of Community Development. The item before you tonight is a request that came to us by both the Executive Director of Arcata House Partnership as well as the Executive Director of Playhouse Arts, requesting that they shift some funding reallocating from the Arcata House Partnership Homeless Services Program, which was funded through the CARES Act Round 2-3, to the COVID Safe Outdoor Event Program, based on some changes that they found they weren't able to staff up at the very beginning of the program, and so that freed some funds up. And they also had some concerns with the Sharps, some concerns and some, I think, long-term concerns, more of once this grant is complete, how would they be able to continue this program? What would be the proper location? And so they just really felt like that wasn't going to be something they were going to be able to do. They also, Arcata House Partnership also asked if they could adjust some other items under their budget. So you'll see that there were some changes, that they requested some additional funding for safety items as well as for trash removal, because that's something that they've been ramping up on as far as encampments, things like that. So both the executive directors really made it clear that they've worked together over the years on many different projects. And the current one, or the most recent one, I think is called Turning Keys. That one uses performing, visual, and literary arts to explore homelessness through the lens of social justice, health, and the environment. And so they really do partner well together, the two subrecipients of the grants for the CV23. So it was nice to see that partnership and really acknowledging that the other program could use some additional staff funding with the amount of outdoor events that are going on right now. So, and I believe the Executive Director of Playhouse Arts is here if you have any questions for her. And I'm happy to answer any questions as well. The formats of the resolution, I did just want to point out, are required by the state, so that's why they're in such a funny looking format. Sorry about that.
Do we have any questions from council regarding this? Ms. Dandino, are you happy to receive the extra $50,000? All right, double thumbs up. Okay. Do we have any public input on this item?
No online public comment?
Okay, is there a motion?
Well, I would move to adopt resolution number 223-03 and 223-04, authorizing an amendment to the standard agreements for the 2020 Community Development Block Grant Program, I'm going to say COVID Response Act, funding and moving $50,000 from the Arcata House Partnership Homeless Services Program to COVID Safe Outdoor Event Program.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 All right. So next we have this, we're opening a public hearing on accomplishments regarding Arcata's Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, grant numbers 20-CDBG-PI-12006 and 20-CDBG-CV1-0089 and 20-CDBG-CV1-00012 for final closeout. So can we have a staff report, please?
Absolutely. So the items before you tonight are closeout accomplishments for 3 community development block grant funded projects that are now complete. Housing and Community Development through the state requires a public hearing on closeout prior to closeout to discuss the accomplishments and receive any feedback from the public. The 3 grants, the first one I'll go over is the grant that was for Sorrel Place. That was for $585,000 worth of program income funding for the acquisition of the property, which then was developed into a 43-unit multifamily affordable housing project. So that was $50,000 in activity and $85,000 in general admin. You can note that we didn't use a very tiny portion of the general admin, but all of the activity was funded. While the CDBG portion was only for acquisition, I just wanted to point out that we also were able to leverage almost $5 million, or close to, actually, it may be $5 million, in additional grant funds for off-site improvements and park improvements and electric bus, among other things. So those are activities that are currently going on right now. But the main thing is that the project assisted over 90 community members in finding permanent affordable housing. So that was the accomplishment there. The next two were funded through CV1, which is the CARES Act funding, round one, and that was through Community Development Block Grant as well. I know you're familiar with the Mobile Intervention Services Team project. Now that, or program rather, that was $80,839,000 worth of funding, which provided missed hours to assist Arcata Police Department in responses involving houseless residents and a lot of residents with mental illness. So that's really what that program is around. This is something I know you're familiar with because I know you authorized using ARPA funding to continue it when this funding ran out. So that was a good program as well. The Arcata House Partnership Boyd Road Sewer Connection is the final project, and that was for $193,150. It was a combination of grant funding and program income, and it was all activity. So there was no admin associated with that. We actually allocated all of the admin that normally would have gone with it to the activity in order to complete the sewer project because it was more expensive than initially anticipated. But that project has also been completed and will increase their capacity to actually add more beds to that shelter. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions on any of those accomplishments. We're happy to close them out because that helps us not have to continue reporting on them forever and ever.
That was my only comment. It was just congratulations, and I'm sure that it's nice to close them out.
And thank you for all your hard work, Deputy Director Dart. I really appreciate that.
Do we have any members of the public wanting to comment on this item?
Thank you very much. My name's Joanne McGarry, and I am still learning about these block grants and how these developments happen and some of the benefits that we gain when a developer creates something like Sorrel Place. I know that one of the things they're very proud of is this electric bus that we are acquiring. I had sort of assumed it had already arrived, but I do hope when it does arrive, we will make a big, huge deal about it for the people in Sorrel Place living there, as well as those of us outside of Sorrel Place. Show it around and get people to use it, because it's one thing to get something, but it's another thing to really make it the true benefit that it's supposed to be. So when we get these block grants and we get these great resources coming to us because of that, let's, make a big deal out of it. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Do we have anyone online?
No online comments.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, can we get a motion?
So I move to have a public hearing on accomplishments regarding Arcata's Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, grant number is 20-CDBG-PI-12006, 20-CDBG-CV1-0089, and 20-CDBG-CV1-00012 for final closeout.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have consider the introduction of ordinance number 1556, adding Chapter 7, Military Equipment Use Policy to Title 3, Public Safety of the Arcata Municipal Code. And could we please have a staff report from Chief Ahern?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Mayor. Vice Mayor Schaefer, I know you're out there somewhere. I just can't see you, and council members as well. Before you tonight is a request to introduce an ordinance that will formalize Arcata Police Department's military equipment use policy. Now, this is in response to a law that was signed by the governor back in September of 2021 that requires every law enforcement agency in the state of California to do exactly what we're doing tonight before their respective governing body. And in essence, what 481 does is it formalizes what used to be a process where basically law enforcement agencies from throughout the country would be able to take ownership of surplus military equipment. Oftentimes that equipment included fortified vehicles and rifles that weren't typically in operation within agencies. So because this was surplus equipment from the military, they made a good faith effort to see if any of the law enforcement agencies throughout the country would want to utilize that equipment. But really, what 481 does is it places some checks and balances into that process, and it also puts it into the public arena to give not only governing bodies like our city council the ability to revise our policy, but also to give the community an opportunity to have comment. For our inventory here in Arcata, the military equipment that we utilize, now, the other thing that this law did is it really expanded the definition of military equipment way beyond fortified vehicles and weaponry, including things like, pepper ball launchers and beanbag shotguns and a mobile command vehicle, which we have, that has no breaching capability. It's not armored in any way. It's simply a mobile command post platform, but that equipment was included in this law. So that's what we're bringing before you tonight, is an opportunity to introduce an ordinance that will formalize our process to utilize mobile command vehicle, AR-15 rifle, beanbag shotgun, and the pepper ball launcher. So those are the 4 items out of all of them that apply here in Arcata. What is not included for us are those 14 rifles that we had taken ownership of from the military several years ago through a formal process through California Office of Emergency Services. If you recall, about 2 years ago, during our reform efforts, one of the things that the council asked us to do was to return those rifles back to the military. And because we had never utilized those rifles, nor had we ever trained on them, there really wasn't any operational necessity to keep them. We took the council's lead and we returned those rifles. So we don't have any equipment at all that we obtained from the military. As part of this requirement, we had to post a draft policy on our website at least 30 days prior to coming before all of you, which is tonight. And basically, that gave the public an opportunity to not only review it, but to provide feedback, either through the police department or to yourself or to the city manager's office. We posted our draft policy, which is policy 710, back on April 21st of this year, and we took the extra step of actually issuing a press release so the community actually knew it was there and they could provide input. We felt like that was the most transparent thing to do. So moving forward, if you were to at least introduce this ordinance tonight and then hopefully adopt it, at a next meeting, we will come back to you on an annual basis and report out on any use of those 4 pieces of equipment that I talked about earlier. The mobile command vehicle, the AR-15 rifles, the beanbag shotguns, and the pepper ball launchers. A part of that reporting out process is we have to, along with every other law enforcement agency, we have to actually draft an annual report, a written report. That report is also required to be made available to the community. So it's got to be posted on our website. And within 30 days of doing that, we have to actually host a community meeting to get feedback from community members on what equipment we used and how we used it, and to have a discussion and to get their feedback on potential changes. We would include that and incorporate that into our annual presentation before all of you. So during that review process, there would be an opportunity. If the council determines that we, in fact, are not using the equipment within the confines of what the law requires, you would then be able to provide me direction in terms of how to revise the policy. We're not anticipating that. It's very clear what the expectations are, and we'll absolutely follow those. So that's basically it for a staff report. Our policy is policy number 710. It's a brand-new policy. We utilize Lexipol for our policies. That is a professional organization that creates police policies for small departments, and they have a number of attorneys on staff that they've retained to make sure that these policies are vetted in accordance with best practices, industry standards, and the law, and so that's the policy that we have. And so with that, I'll take any questions.
Well, I can't even imagine what they look like or how they operate. Are you going to have a demonstration?
Well, you know what, council member, we'll if you have a request, we'll try to.
I'm just curious. I'm pepper ball launchers or just curious. I'll have to look them up and see what they look like.
Yeah, so pepper ball really is and like the beanbag is a de-escalation tool. We are trying not to use, would be used in a violent or potentially violent situation. And clearly, this isn't something we developed. These are lessons learned by our profession over years and years of getting involved in fatal encounters. And so now there are a number of pieces of equipment that we can utilize prior to using deadly force. So pepper ball is basically, it's a small cylindrical, like almost looks like a bead, and it contains some chemical agent that is designed to really try to momentarily immobilize the person, distract them, so that we can move in and get them into custody safely. So it's the impact and the chemical agent that is designed to do that, to distract them so that you don't have to use any other force options. You can take them into custody safely.
Well, thank you for that explanation. I'm just, curious how they operate, etc. So is there public comment?
Sarah also has some questions. Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yeah, I was going to ask just a clarifying question. So the rifles that were given back, so those are the 223 the 223 caliber, but they're still listed in this policy because we have had them before. Is that why?
No, ma'am. Those rifles were military surplus. The ones that we have now are the AR-15. It's a patrol rifle. It is an industry standard for police departments. The 223 is really the caliber of the bullet, and really the use for police departments is in a situation where you have, for example, a hostage, and so the rifle gives the officer increased accuracy. And because there are times when suspects have body armor on, there's a greater likelihood that 223 round is going to penetrate that body armor versus the 40 caliber handgun, for example, that we carry. So now there may be similarities in the AR-15 to those rifles we obtained from the military, but the 223 round is an industry standard. You'll find that type of patrol rifle in use in many police departments throughout the country.
Your explanation answered my question. I'm just realizing I was looking at the AR listed and the ammunition below it is what it is, because I didn't see we have this many number, which was kind of my next question on that, but I think I answered it myself. So there we go. Okay, thanks.
And just for clarification, I know that you said that we'll get an annual report on how these are used, and I'm assuming also that if something were to change and something different were to be acquired, then we would get that same report at that time.
Correct, ma'am. We would add that piece of military equipment to the annual report, and we would come back with a revised ordinance as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have public input? We might.
I see no public comment online.
Okay. So yeah, let's go ahead.
So I move to introduce ordinance number 1556, adding Chapter 7, Military Equipment Use Policy to Title 3, Public Safety of the Arcata Municipal Code, waiving reading of the text and elect to introduce by title only.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 All right, thank you. Motion passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have item D, award purchase contracts to the lowest bidders for supplying various equipment and materials needed for the new UV disinfection system for the Arcata wastewater treatment facility improvement project, and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. Is there anyone here for a staff report?
We do. On Zoom, we have our purchasing manager, Danielle Allred.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for allowing me to attend virtually this evening. So as you're likely aware, the city is currently out to bid for a contractor to perform the work of the phase 1 of the Arcata wastewater treatment facility improvement project. And that project involves installation of a new ultraviolet disinfection system, which is currently in process of fabrication by a supplier that was selected through a competitive proposal process last year. So installation of that UV system will be one of the first major milestones for the selected contractor to complete. And one of the effects of the coronavirus pandemic has been significant delays in supply chains. So to help facilitate meeting the deadline for that milestone, the city elected to pre-procure some additional equipment and materials that will be necessary to complete the installation of the UV system once the general contractor has been selected. And last month, the city solicited quotes for the necessary equipment and materials. One of those solicitations concluded last week, and staff is recommending the council award a purchase contract for the fabricated slide gates and actuators to the lowest bidder, which in this case was Golden Harvest, with a quote in the amount of $101,577.50. And I must apologize, there was a typo in the award that was listed on your agenda. So it's actually $20 more. It's $101,577 rather than $57.50. And you can also disregard the second recommendation. The city ended up needing to delay the quote due date for the piping and valves due to some feedback that we got from the suppliers that we were soliciting quotes from. So that will be brought to you at a future council meeting. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Congratulations on meeting this milestone. I know that we've been really waiting for this, so.
Yeah, we'll hope it will help us make sure that we get all the work that we need to get done on time.
I don't have any questions, just thank you for thinking ahead.
Absolutely.
Well, I would make the motion, except, what was the amount again? I mean, you said it was
101,577.5.
577, okay, 50, okay.
Yeah,
Maybe you
$20 more than what's listed. Thank you.
So I would move to award a purchase contract to Golden Harvest, Inc. in the amount of 101,577.50 for the UV disinfection process area fabricated slide gates and actuators, and award the purchase contract to the lowest responsible bidder for the UV disinfection process.
No, we don't have to do B. B is going to come back to you.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
just-
So it's
I'm
only
sorry,
number
and three.
one.
You
No
can just
two.
skip to 3.
Yeah.
No, and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents.
I second.
And we have one public comment online.
Great, thank you. Do we have anyone? Yeah, we'll do public comment in person first, so, yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate you're letting me keep coming up here. Don't put the barricades up yet. My name is Joanne McGarry, and all I want to say is a reminder, what we're doing for the existing wastewater treatment plant, it's great, necessary, healthy for our community, but what's even going to be healthier is finding a retreat spot, so when sea level rises, probably sooner than we want it to, we're going to have a safe and available space to go to. So focus on the now, but also look to the future when we're talking about all this stuff and spending money, and what's the best way to spend that money for now and for the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.
Okay, online comment by Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
Hello, Chris Richards here. I just had a brief comment. I know you already moved on to propose and second and all that, but as kind of a standard, I don't know, maybe it's problematic getting enough people to bid on this sort of thing, but when I see bids that vary in the amount with this particular small item project, I'm just curious that I don't see anything in the agenda packet that specifies quality or equipment style with the bidding and all that. And I realize on this, even though small items sometimes are really important in wastewater and other equipment, you know, when you get it all going, you're like, oh, we did the low bid on this valve setup and now we're stuck with this lemon. But so I'm just curious when I see a bid that varies this amount, and if it was a much larger ticket item, I think my concern would be even higher. So anyway, that's the comment I have on maybe you can't get very many people to bid on these, but then again, I don't see very much information that shows qualitative standards for the equipment in comparison with the bids. So anyway, I'm assuming you guys are probably covering this and figuring it out, but I just wanted to bring that up, and I look forward to moving forward with the UV system. So that's a fantastic thing that we're going to have here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
If the council would like, I could speak to Chris's comment briefly.
That's okay, Danielle. Thank you. I'm sorry. Is there anyone else, Karen?
One more comment just came in. This is Unvaxxed Donnie. Go ahead.
Hey there. Yeah, I was actually commenting on this UV water protection and kind of on the last commenter about the how fast the sea level is rising. And it looks like it's risen a total of 6 inches since the 19th century. So it's probably not too much of a concern, given that we're in the 21st century now, and that's not very many inches per century. So that's a good thing to not have to worry about. Thanks.
Thank you. You can hear he has an assistant in the background. Is there anyone else?
No other online public comment.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. Motion passes. Okay, so item E is to consider assignments for currently vacant regional boards, commission, and committees and liaison positions. So we have a list of vacant positions provided in the agenda. We will be going back through all of this after elections in December when we seat the 2 council members at that time. But for now, there's a couple of important ones that do need to, we're hoping to fill today, the Transit Authority Board and Redwood Regional Economic Development Commission. And so there's quite a few, since we're dividing them up between 4 people rather than 5. It's a little bit more of a lift for us. So we don't have to fill in all the alternates and such at this time, but mostly, Alex, we just wanted to, or Councilmember Stillman, check in with you to see what your availability is.
Well, I look forward to going back on to REDEC. I've served on it before, and I would like to be appointed to that. And also HTA, Humboldt Transit Authority. I would like to do that. And wherever else you might need me. You need someone for Humboldt Del Norte Hazardous Materials Response Joint Powers Authority. They'll be meeting in October.
Yeah, I think if you're willing to take that one on, that would probably be, I think that's probably the last thing that we really have to fill right now, Karen, or is there anything else that you think we should?
No, I think the primary 2 JPAs and that, because we have no representation, would fill us out at least with a representative on each.
So I have one other.
And I also just wanted to add, because you already are on the COVID Economic Recovery Collaborative, and citizen sense. So to be on that as well, because it is a 2-member position as well.
Which
I
one
think
is that?
you're already continuing that work.
Oh,
I think it's
okay.
the very last one on the second page or
Okay.
first page, whatever that is. Yeah.
Okay, I see that. Thank you. I have a request also. Arcata Downtown Business Community, Arcata Main Street. If Meredith, if you're willing to give that position up, I would like to be the alternate.
Oh, that's absolutely fine. Please. And, and if there's anything else, then I'd like to maybe be an alternate for our Arcata House Partnership then, just so I can, and Alex, I just want to say thank you. It's a really exciting time to be on the Humboldt Transit Authority board. They just got those hydrogen buses. They've got some really exciting things going on. So I'm going to be sad not to go into those meetings, but it's really exciting time to be on that board.
Thank you. Well, I'll find out soon because I already have a meeting scheduled with the executive director for that, for HTA. So the other thing is, I know we don't have it here, but in the past, I had the opportunity to be a liaison with FOAM, the Friends of the Arcata Marsh, and et cetera. And so you don't have to have that down here, but I'll probably go to their meetings.
It's up to the council. We've had a liaison in the past, and then we didn't have anyone that was able to make those meetings for a couple of years, and so it did drop off the list, but it's up to you.
We can officially add it back on for now and give you, so that you're an official liaison.
Okay, I would like to do that. I've been involved with FOAM, and I'm a tour leader, and haven't done it recently, but I am, so I think it would be good. And I was a board member after I had a period of time in between. So anyway, thank you. Do we need to vote on this? Have a motion?
So I think what I'm going to do is I made notes, so I'm going to summarize what the changes that we made to make Ms. Dory happy, and then someone can move on that. So we have added Alex, Ms. Stillman as the primary on Humboldt Transit Authority, and also on REDEC, and on the Humboldt Delnor Hazardous Materials Response Joint Powers Authority. Primary also on Friends of the Marsh. An alternate on Arcata Downtown Business Community, Main Street. And an alternate on the COVID-19 Economic Recovery Collaborate. And then added Councilmember Matthews as an alternate to the Arcata House Partnership.
So I just wanted to ask another question. You have the Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, Water Task Force. Oh, you're Meredith, you're doing that. Never mind, I'm sorry. Is there anything else that you need help with, or you need to have a backup in case you want one? Okay.
I think we're fine for right now. We're fine.
Okay, great.
So would somebody like to move on that?
Well, also move to appoint myself to these other boards and second, et cetera, as listed by the mayor.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, what about public comment? Do we have anybody in person or online?
Nobody online.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion passes. Okay, so then item F is a statement by the City of Arcata of unity against anti-Semitic messages and all forms of hate speech. And since I first arrived on the council, we have been witness to several bias or hate incidences centered on race, ethnicity, gender, and religious preference. And although it's the smallest fringe of individuals who commit these acts and they don't represent any part of the values that we hold as a community, while we will continue to look to prosecute incidents when there is a criminal element, often these incidents don't rise to a criminal standard. In those moments, it is important for leaders to continue to speak out to counter any narratives of hate spread in our community. And to that end, Councilmember Matthews has requested a statement of unity stemming from a recent incident that I will ask her to share that statement now. So we'll have her share the statement, and then we can take public comment and then see if we'd like to move to adopt that.
Thank you, Mayor Akin-Salazar. Even though this statement of unity is primarily me as a Jewish woman wanting to stand united against the anti-Semitic messages. I also want to include our BIPOC community, our LGBTQ community. I'm united with you against all forms of hate. And even though what I'm commenting on right now, the impetus for this was on plastic bags with very hateful anti-Semitic messages, it does not just extend to that. There are countless microaggressions against the Jewish population that can be even as simple as wearing a yellow star on your shirt or anything more than that. So just please keep in mind how you're presenting yourself. And I'd like to make this statement right now. Statement of unity against anti-Semitic messages and all forms of hate speech. Over the past couple of weeks, neighbors in Arcata, Eureka, Scotia, and throughout the county were shocked to find plastic sandwich bags on their doorstep filled with hateful anti-Semitic messaging. Delivered randomly along streets, this action is the result of a small, fringe, white supremacist extremist group that targets Jewish communities as well as other minority groups throughout the region. Many cities across the country have also been hit with identical anti-Semitic screeds blaming the COVID pandemic on the Jewish people. As a defender of free speech, Arcata has always supported people's rights under the First Amendment. But let's be clear, the Arcata City Council and our community soundly reject and condemn any hate-filled messages and any inference to discrimination against any kind of group or person. To our Jewish residents and neighbors, be assured that as a community, Arcata will stand up together to reject anti-Semitic messages and all forms of hate speech. The Arcata City Council stands united in our zero-tolerance position against all forms of hate speech in our city. The Arcata Police Department and the Humboldt County Sheriff recognize the impact of hate incidents and stands with the council and the community united against hate. Both departments are actively investigating these incidents. Anyone who has information or camera footage of this hate incident is asked to call the Arcata Police Department at 707-822-2424. Residents and businesses can join in the city in messaging our unity against hate by placing signs available in the back of the room tonight that read, Arcata stands united against hate, in their windows. I thank you. I mean, personally, since these messages have been found on doorsteps, my synagogue has been closed to the public. We have had to have extra police around there. I just find it very distressing that people can't worship freely because they're scared. So I just want to emphasize that Arcata is a hate-free community. And thank you for letting me read that, Stacy.
Following up on that, on Neighbor Next Door today, Ted Pease, who writes for the Senior News, was surprised that in Trinidad how many of them had shown up and that it just happened. So, do you want to move for this? Make a motion and I'll second it?
Sure. I'd like to. We will.
We'll have it. We can have it after the motion.
So I'm going to recommend that the council support a statement of unity against anti-Semitic messages and all forms of hate speech.
Second.
Okay, now it's time for public comment. We'll go ahead and start with people in person first. Come on up.
Hello, my name is Dana Quillman. I've been a resident of Arcata for 35 years. This hate speech thing is very important to me. I'm a real defender of freedom of speech. I'm just going to read a little bit what it came out of Wikipedia about hate speech in the United States. It cannot be directly regulated due to the fundamental right of freedom of speech protected by the Constitution. While hate speech is not a legal term in the United States, the U.S. Supreme Court has repeatedly ruled that most of what would qualify as hate speech in the Western countries is legally protected free speech under the First Amendment. So last year, there was a rally at the hospital of St. Joe's, and I'm just going to read a little bit about that. Around August 22nd, it might have been the 18th, a group of health freedom advocates staged a rally in front of St. Joseph's Hospital. One of the people brought some buttons to share. The buttons have a yellow star on them with the word unvaccinated. In the center of it, in the center of it. The inspiration to both make the buttons and to wear them came from being treated in similar ways to how Jews were treated in the early stages of the Holocaust, being alienated, discriminated against, persecuted, forced to lose their employment, feared, and treated as second-class citizens and worse. We unvaccinated have also been labeled conspiracy theorists because we have done our research and the information we have found is censored, so everyone else is in the dark and are afraid to consider that it may be all truth. We in the health freedom movement do not understand how everyone else cannot see what is happening. We have seen friends and family not defend us or have a problem with the treatment that we have received, just like so many people in Germany stood by and watched the treatment of the Jews grow worse and worse. Since the beginning of COVID-19, there have been many violations of the Nuremberg Code. Yet I do not hear anyone speaking about this except for those of us in the health freedom movement. I just want to say that being offended by other people's words is a real problem. We all need to have a thick skin. We live with billions of people on the planet. Everybody's got different viewpoints, different sensitivities. And actually, I feel that that when this came out last year, this article that basically accused my partner Paul Patino of perpetrating a hate crime because he wore this button, and then a picture of him was printed right next to it. I consider this slander. I consider this hate speech. Okay, so that's my opinion. You can have your opinion, but you know what? It doesn't matter what our opinions are, because wearing the button, having an opinion about it, printing his photo there, and even this, all of this is freedom of speech, okay? So if you're going to have a statement about this, can you please include the unvaccinated, because we have been more discriminated and persecuted in the last year and a half than any other group. Okay. And if you don't do that, your statement is hypocritical. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, thank you. My name is Fred Wise. I'm speaking this from my heart. I have great respect for your intelligence and your abilities to lead. If it comes off any differently, I apologize, and staff as well. The documents are still not getting into the packets. The packets, agenda packets, are missing sometimes an occasional page of a staff report, sometimes essential documents are necessary.
We're not quite there yet. I think you're wanting items that aren't on the agenda, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, we're talking about the.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
No
I
worries. We'll call you
apologize.
back up in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Do we have any others wanting to comment on this particular item?
We do.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Unvaxxed Donnie.
Hello. Yes, I would like to not only second Dana's motions and her positions that was just said right now, but also say, Paul is one of the most wonderful men I've ever met in my life. He's served on the very committee that I'm talking to now. He's done well by this community and well by others. There's not a hateful fabric in his DNA, and for anybody in this community to suggest otherwise is egregious. But I don't think, I'm not surprised by it. I'm actually kind of coming on here to let you guys know about some hate speech that's happening, and that has been happening, and kind of warn you guys. And it doesn't sound like you guys know that the past 2 years there's been hate speech happening constantly towards the unvaccinated, or the people that took every other vaccine but the COVID-19 vaccine, and for the purposes of being marked and wearing a pin with the Star of David on it. The same feeling was basically rendered upon me every single time I would go into a store and see a sign that said unvaccinated, put a mask on your face. Vaccinated, go ahead and don't wear a mask. And this flew in the face of science that showed that the unvaccinated and the vaccinated could both get the illness and pass it along. the vaccinated actually didn't know that they had less symptoms. And so they were actually passing the virus more readily, and being able to walk around vaccinated without a mask on indoors was like adding insult to injury if you were aware of the science. I mean, topping it all off, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's terrible. There's these characters going around dropping off, egregious content on innocent people's doorsteps, and that shouldn't happen, okay? But when we go and we take something that's negative that's happening in the community, and then we tie all these other things and we try to use it and try to frame it in ways that's not relevant and that's not factual and that doesn't fit the program, and also it doesn't fit reality, and then also tying in innocent people that are good people for no good reason just to try to shame them, it's so egregious. Like, I don't understand what the intent is here, but it seems to me that there's some kind of irreconcilable personal differences between whoever wrote this stuff and their feelings towards Paul. Because if they can't figure out why a person like myself, and a person like Paul, and a person like, say, Cornelius, an immigrant Jew, that all of us wore the same
Donnie,
pin.
that's actually the 3 minutes, but thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
There's no other online comment.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second on this one. All in favor?
Do you want to have any discussion
Aye.
on the motion?
Resounding aye.
Thank you. If you want to have more discussion, we can.
I just wondered if anyone wanted to consider that. But the way I look at this is mainly more religious. And that's how I look at your anti-Semitic messages. I don't look at the unvaccinated as that way.
Confused because no one mentioned any name. I don't know why this is the conversation. I feel like that was irrelevant to the item at hand. We're talking about these anti-Semitic hate messages that were strewn on the steps of synagogues and all over our town, Scotia, Trinidad, Eureka, Arcata. Like, it has nothing. We talk about anybody. So I'm just like a little confused where this is coming from. But anyway, resounding support. Thank you, Meredith, for bringing this before us. Again, I appreciate your comments about how it's not only about one sect of our society, right? We want to support people against hate in all situations. And I just thank you for bringing this before us. Definitely support it. So thank you, Meredith.
Thanks, Sarah.
Councilmember Matthews.
Just to let you know that this text was suggested text from the Anti-Defamation League. It was also spoken at the Berkeley City Council meeting. So, and aye.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to rush to, so does everybody feel like they've said what they need to say? Okay, so we have one aye. I will also vote aye. Sarah gave a resounding aye, and Councilmember Stillman says aye, so it passes unanimously. Thank you. So next, that takes us to oral and written communications. So this time is provided for people to address the council on matters that are not on the agenda. So again, this is for only things that are not on the agenda. And if you are in person and wanting to give public comment, now is the time for that. So we'll go ahead and start that process. If you're online, please press wave it or raise your hand on Zoom and press *9 if you are on the phone. And we'll go ahead and start with Fred.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor, members of City Council staff. Again, my respect for you, what you're doing. I am in favor of information. That's why I started my arcata1.com website. Currently, the plan calls for a reduction of on-street parking. This may or may not be a good thing. I'm not speaking pro or con right now. I just want people to be aware of this. By my estimates, it's going to result in a reduction of 25 to 40%, not insignificant. I'd like to know if the business community is aware of this. I know it's being looked at by different committees. In parks, I made the distinction in a letter that I wrote to Parks and Rec, distinct between natural open space, paths and trails, adult recreation, children recreation, in other words, playgrounds, and parks where people can actually meet, congregate. I'm very much in favor of open space, and trails are extremely important, but what's very critical are parks for our community, where people can meet and have events. There is no designation of parks in the entire Gateway Plan other than the plaza-sized parcel where Wing Inflatables now is. That may not happen for 5, 10, or 20 years, we don't know, and relies upon the landowner providing it as public access space. I would like to see parks where people can congregate, and possibly the city purchasing some land. I have some ideas where the land might be, but that's another topic. In terms of the public engagement report, I wrote to the council back in April before the public engagement report came out. I said, I'm willing to assemble and direct a group of citizens who will take on what surely is a necessary component of public input for the Gateway Plan. I don't think I need to remind you that what's the engagement report now is acknowledged as a draft. It does not provide any guidance for such important things as building height and a slew of other important things. If we could get this before the joint study session, that would be wonderful. If I can help, please do ask. Documents are still not getting into the packets. Letters that will now be 2 months old are not there. Pages of staff reports are sometimes missing, sometimes essential documents that the public needs to evaluate the committees. There's the, in the binder in the back, there's the July, I think, 26th Planning Commission meeting. Letters from 2 months ago are still not there. I don't think that this is minor. I think the public needs to be heard. Thanks very much. I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, Fred.
My final presence behind the podium here today, I'm Joanne McGarry and Magreta persona right now about the climate reality. I did listen to the White House press secretary talk about answering questions from the media whether President Biden would be declaring a national climate emergency. So it is front page news, as we know what's happening in other parts of the world. We are fortunate to be cooler here and have more water than a whole lot of other places in our country and in the world. But what I want to talk about, just to send you home with tonight, is that the city of Arcata can do so much for itself and for the greater good of the world beyond, because we do have a unique place on the planet and many lessons that we learn from the natural environment, the geology, just the history of this place. And I have been trying to research in the past the civic engagement of those who aren't sitting on the dais and those of us who end up showing up in our seats here at City Hall in the chambers. So civic engagement, I do consider myself an essential citizen of this town and even of this county. And I just would love for all of us to promote and encourage more and more civic engagement, however we can do that, by getting the word out. I mean, I really appreciated the police chief saying that he did issue a press release about his draft ordinance, you know, so that the people would kind of know about it. We need more and more of that public awareness to get the people publicly engaged, so that it's not just all left up to you, because there's so much that needs to be done, so much that needs to be done. So I guess I'm going to send you off with my final wish, because the climate is number one in my mind, and that we have a lot of committees in this city, but a climate action committee, I think, is pretty important. So I'd like you to consider that, especially with the climate action plan being discussed, so that we can have oversight and we can have impetus and we can have civic engagement and we can get people who really want to be involved on this life-threatening issue to get involved and take some action and move faster than we have been moving. No more business as usual. We gotta move things faster and get things done. I've heard that quoted by somebody. So thank you very much. And the overview effect, go tonight and remember that. Planet Earth, Mother Earth. We need to protect her, save her. Bye.
Thank you, Joanne. Do we have anyone else in person that would like to comment on things not on the agenda? Okay, how about online?
All right, our first online is Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
Hello, Chris Richards, local resident, business owner, responsible growth Arcata member. I really just want to take a moment. I missed the early section for this off-agenda commenting, and welcome Alex Stillman to the council. It's nice that we have a new fresh face and some experience on the board, and I really look forward to engaging with you, Alex, and I'm glad that you are taking the time out of your life to donate it to the city of Arcata and the community. So anyway, a warm, heartfelt cheer for you coming on board, and that's all I had tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Our next speaker is Patricia. Go ahead, Patricia.
Hello, this is Patricia Kamyanika again. I rambled my way out of time on the last one, so I was just going to try to finish up a little bit. I was talking about the rails to trails along L Street, and I just kind of wanted to pitch my support for that a little bit more. I ended with kind of quoting out of the draft plan of the Gateway on page 59, and was saying that it stated the city's goal is to provide a park, high quality trail or open space within 200 yards of every residential unit in the plan area. And I kind of gave a little bit of my opinion on that statement. And then it goes on to say it's anticipated that the city park in lieu fees collected from residential developments in the area will be sufficient for purchase and at least partial development of new parkland facilities. And so I was a little discouraged to hear at Monday's Park and Rec meeting that they were actually discussing using the in lieu fees for parks outside of the Gateway area. This was and there was like this fear from one of the members that there's so many new people that would be coming into the Gateway with the Gateway area plan that would put a strain on existing parks in the outlying areas. And I really believe that those monies should be designated for the parks within the Gateway area. And then on page 62 of the draft plan of the Gateway, it says parkland dedications and fees. It says require residential development projects to dedicate land and or pay fees for publicly accessible open spaces within the plan area, consistent with the Quimby Act Land Use Code section 9.86.030 park land dedication and fees. So I just, I would just really, I would just really think that this is an opportunity that shouldn't be missed for the community. This trail would give so much back. And I think if we're thinking about adding all this new, growth into this area, it'd be really nice to see that really enhanced. I think it's an opportunity that we really shouldn't overlook and risk losing. And then that's pretty much all I wanted to say on the trail. I want to end with
Patricia, that's actually a little over your 3 minutes. I'm sorry, but
I
thank you.
wanted to stand in full solidarity with the city on our last on the anti-Semitic stance and all other forms of hate. So I just want to throw that out there and stand with Meredith in solidarity as well. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Patricia.
No other online comment.
Okay, so now is the time for any staff or council member updates. Do we have any at this time?
No updates from staff.
I just want to talk briefly. I know that I've had, and I'm sure we've all had presentations from Life Care Humboldt. I am really saddened that they missed out on that land, and I'm really hoping that moving forward, we can work together to find a solution for them, because I think that's, especially with the silver tsunami that was just on the consent calendar, it's really important that we try to move forward and find these people a place, so.
So I have, we received a note from, I think Bridget sent it out, maybe about having I Street Dog Park, and there was a response from David Loya on that. So I contacted, his name is Rod Ledbetter, and I talked to him about an interim possibility to do something over here. You can see it on 7th between Safeway parking lot, and it goes at the entrance and goes up to the freeway. And that's something that Mark Andre, when he was on our staff in Arcata, he mentioned that as a possibility, as an interim. And I know it doesn't meet the class 1 probably, where you have a small park for small dogs and big dogs, but I think that is something that we could actually think about. And when I talked to Ron, I said to him, he said, well, is there water? I said, well, no, but when I was out walking with a friend of mine, he just carried a bottle of water and he poured it in his hand, and then his dog drank out of it. And he said, well, that's right, we carry water for our dogs now, so we wouldn't have to worry about that. Maybe a couple of benches and have it open at 6 in the morning by the police department, so close to that, and close at 6 in the evening or something of that nature. And right now it's sort of a wild field. It probably, wouldn't be like that out, the dogs running. I did talk to Sarah. She mentioned she was interested in a dog park. And so I thought I would like to move this forward. Let's see if we can't put something interim in. And if we put it on our next agenda, or whatever agenda it would go on, Rod said that there's 14 Arcata dog walkers, and they meet in different places in the county and walk their dogs, and he thought possibly they would support this kind of an idea. And if you have a dog that is a jumper, you probably have trouble with your dog in the yard, and if you have a dog that's a biter or whatever, you don't want them to be socializing with other dogs anyway, so you'd have to use that, and you'd have to think some small dogs do really well with big dogs and vice versa. So I don't think we have to get into managing. I think that's what you as a dog owner have to do, is manage your dog's life and how they get along. But I'd like to propose that and have that looked into. And there's double gates that go in, and then there's a single gate. And so I think it could be pretty easy. So, and I don't know if anyone else agrees with that or would be interested in having that move forward, or would like staff to look into it. But I know I can propose things by myself, but if there's no one else interested, it dies.
I wouldn't say that no one's interested, but having it not on the agenda, we really can't discuss it, but we could definitely consider it for an agenda item so we can discuss it.
That's what I'm requesting. But if no one is even interested in doing that, it's dead.
I'm interested.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah.
Well, and I think about, a month or so, a couple weeks ago, I did ask just for a general update too, and I think that will be coming just on where the status where we are on Little Lakes, and just a general dog park update, because I know we're waiting for some stuff to get figured out about the tax ownership of that property and getting it released and cleaned up and all that stuff. And it is a process, but I would be interested in hearing an update. And I know the previous update that we had, they did list several locations for something like this, for this interim kind of idea till we get the real premier dog park going. So I'm interested in hearing. So.
Hey, thank you, Sarah, because I think we can do interim, and I think it'll make a lot of people happy. And we have some premium ones in McKinleyville and in over in Eureka, and I'm not too sure where else. I don't have a dog, so but I understand the need of it because I have grandchildren with dogs, and I have son and daughter-in-law. They all have dogs, and so I know that there's a need for socialization of your dogs playing with others.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Anyone else?
The Chamber of Commerce is still hiring for an executive director. We're taking applications, if that's something that interests you.
Well, I do have another item, but that was just, I have an announcement. Okay. So Arcata Main Street met today, and they're planning a skateboarding event on September 11th from 12 to 4. It'll be around the plaza. They'll be getting their permits and working all of that together. But I just wanted to let you know that. And also, this Sunday, we start with the summer music concert on the plaza, and also there'll be the art market.
I think it's the California Poppies on Sunday.
Yes, it is, because I'm a fan. So my report out, I met with our homelessness work group today. And so for the Home Key project that Arcata House Partnership is working on at the Days Inn, I believe, and Karen, please check me on this, that they were hoping for occupancy in September, October. Is that not what they said, or did I get that wrong?
It was said, but I would not hold them to that because there are still some hurdles ahead.
Okay. Okay.
But they are going to occupy quick. Home Key is a fast occupant, program. So maybe even by the end of the year, we would see occupancy in both.
Okay, so yeah, so it is moving forward at a surprising speed for someone new to government processes. And speaking of myself, and I did like part of that, they talked about they're going to set aside spaces for veterans, which I think is really great. As for the safe parking program, we discussed that as well, and they did have an intentional kind of slow start to that, wanting to work on slowly building capacity to work out all the kinks and things that might need to happen. Currently, they're serving 23 clients and 15 households, and they also have room for more of that. And several of the clients have been transitioned. And the thing that I found particularly exciting was that it was discussed that all of the programs that we are, putting together are making a significant difference in the way that they are able to house and care for people. So, it's often said that one program is not going to meet all the needs, and sometimes we get fixated on that, but having lots of different types of programs really does mesh together to form a wide effect. And so they've noticed that and have felt like they could be more successful in working with people. And the Community Ambassadors program has been getting a lot of media attention, which I'm grateful for, and we are in the process of hiring for that. And the goal is to have the ambassadors trained and out in the community end of August, first part of September. So very excited to see that program roll out. So that's it. That's it for me. Thank you. Anything from anyone else? Okay, so we do, for dates of future meetings, we have a study session with the Planning Commission, which is set for Tuesday, August 23rd at 6 p.m. here in Council Chambers. And with that, we will.
So we're going to, Bridget, do you want a motion on that since it's his schedule? By consensus.
Okay, are we okay with that date and time for the Planning Commission study session?
Yes. Yes, I already have it in my calendar.
Okay, it is in calendars and ready to go. You have consensus. All right, thank you. With that, we will adjourn.
Bye, you guys.